As someone with over 10 years of digital marketing experience, spanning from customer experience measurement to corporate brand strategy, it's a passion of mine to help others achieve success through digital marketing, branding, and your content strategy. A few other passions of mine, just so we can get to know each other a little bit better. I've read 35 books to date this year. I love reading. I do have 20 more to go to reach my goal this year. So if you have any recommendations that are pretty quick reads, please drop them in the chat, because that's a lot of reading to get done in 2 months. And then another little detail about me, I have, most importantly, my 3 pets, 2 cats named Lucky and Sprout. As someone with over 10 years of digital marketing experience, spanning from customer experience measurement to corporate brand strategy, it's a passion of mine to help others achieve success through digital marketing, branding, and your content strategy. A few other passions of mine, just so we can get to know each other a little bit better. I've read 35 books to date this year. I love reading. I do have 20 more to go to reach my goal this year. So if you have any recommendations that are pretty quick reads, please drop them in the chat, because that's a lot of reading to get done in 2 months. And then another little detail about me, I have, most importantly, my 3 pets, 2 cats named Lucky and Sprout, and a new, well, not that new to me, I guess, but a year-old puppy named Daiquiri. So now that we're all acquainted, let's chat about what we're going to cover today. In today's webinar, we'll touch on a quick introduction to digital marketing and what it is, and then dive deeper into content strategy to help set the stage. Then we'll speak more specifically about the different elements of a content strategy, from discovery to brainstorming to development. And then we'll talk about an actual content strategy in practice. This is a section that was developed for a fictional jewelry company, using the process that we'll go through and using the tools that I referenced throughout. And then finally, we'll wrap up with a few tips, tricks, and then also some tools and resources to help you with your content strategy development and your digital marketing as a whole. So we'll start with an overview of digital marketing and how content plays a pivotal role. Digital marketing is the art and science of promoting products or services through digital channels such as websites, search engines, social media, email, and more. In a world where 4.6 billion people use the internet, the potential reach of your digital marketing is enormous. And it has a multifaceted approach that helps you really harness that power of the internet to connect your business with a wider audience, to enhance your brand visibility, drive business growth. And the best part about it is that it's all at a much more cost-effective rate than a typical traditional marketing campaign. And you as a business owner can easily activate any of these methods within your own team. It really does put the power back into your hands to take control of how your brand appears on the website or on the internet and how you reach your audience. So let's talk about a crucial part of this, which is all about content. So why the focus on content strategy? Let's start with what it is. A content strategy is a structured plan that governs the creation, distribution, and management of content so that you can ensure that your digital marketing efforts as a whole are purposeful and effective. Content underpins everything that you do, from the brand story that you tell on your website and your product description pages, to your educational content that you might put on your blog, or promotional content on your social media accounts, or in paid advertising. All of that should be working together and should ladder up to a content strategy and the goals and objectives that you've set as a company. And most importantly, it should also speak to your target buyer persona and where they're at in their buying journey. Statistically, companies with a documented strategy are 60% more effective in their efforts, but only 41% of B2B brands and 33% of B2C brands have a documented content strategy. As a new business owner, it might assume that this is a nice to have because you have a lot of other things on your plate right now. might not feel necessary, but producing high quality content in your marketing strategy from early on in your journey can be invaluable in building trust with new audiences and succeeding in the long haul. So where do you start? That feels like a lot. How do you build a content strategy that can guide your marketing efforts? But the most important thing that I want to focus on too is one that's scalable for you. As you grow, your marketing should grow with you. So you don't want to have to revisit all the time your content strategy. So let's just start with the basics. Well, there are a lot of different frameworks that you can use. And I do have some linked examples and workbooks in the appendix so that you can go through this on your own time and you can see different examples that will help you develop your content strategy. A simple approach that I like is the 5 W's and 1 H, the who, what, where, when, and how, and why. So we'll go one by one. That starts with, who are you creating content for? At the core of all of this is your target audience. So based on detailed customer personas you've developed, you want to make sure that you are speaking to them. That is who you are creating this content for. And why are you creating it? To hit those goals that we talked about, those big objectives for your brand, like increasing your brand awareness or hitting your sales targets or increasing ROI. But it is also important to add KPIs for measurement and tracking. What are you creating? You want content that is engaging, informative, and it's valuable for that target audience. Where are you putting it? What channels? You want to make sure that you have clear designated channels with a purpose and that you've prioritized those based off of your objectives and your resources that you have available to you. The when is also important. So when can speak to two things. It can speak to how often you're creating content within a month, whether that's like 2 blog posts, 1 email, 2 to 3 social media posts a week, things like that. But also it can speak to the time that you post it. There's a lot of things to think about with when. But at the core of that, you really is determined by your resources and the goals that you're setting for yourself and some of the channel nuances as well. It should be, all of that should be included in your strategy and plan and your editorial calendar for tracking to make sure that you are staying on target. And another piece is the how. How are you going to do all of this? And that starts with a tactical blueprint that outlines what resources you have available to you, the tools that you have or are invested in building or finding for yourself, and a budget and workflow. And I know this is going a little bit out of order from what the slide is, but I want to start with that last one first because it is really important. And the reason why I want to start with executional is because every business strategy or business needs to be honest with themselves about their resources and their own limitations going into developing a strategy like this, especially early on. As founders of your business, many times you have a very thin crew that you are trying to get a lot of things done with. So you need to be honest about where you're at in your own journey, what capacity that you have to build a content strategy. You might not be able to build something that hits 14 different channels, all of the social media, deep content on your blog, and everywhere else. So before you dive into the process, we'll outline in the following slides for yourself. Take some time to sit down and really think about who's responsible for the content, not just creating it, but brainstorming it, to writing, to designing, to who's going to be your final approver, who's going to be the person looking over it, and then who's going to be posting it. Thinking about all of those things is important to setting up your workflow and your capacity for content creation month over month. Additionally, how much time does each person have to dedicate to this? How often are you going to be creating new evergreen content or seasonal time-bound content? Also outlining and being clear about the tools that you have access to or are willing to create or invest in order to manage this process. A few are your editorial calendar. That can be as simple as a Word document or a spreadsheet. It does not have to be some big, beautiful thing. Whatever is workable and manageable for you as a team, but that helps guide your strategy. Social media management tools, this can range from just going straight to the platform or having a tool like Buffer, which is a low cost of entry tool that can help you manage multiple channels at once, plan in advance, and simplify your reporting in the long run. Design is another one. Canva, I know everybody talks about Canva. I think it's a great tool for templatizing, creating a brand hub for yourself, and creating repeatable graphics in a really easy and intuitive way. And then also your analytics. So that Google Analytics is going to be one of your cornerstones. And then things like your social media management platform can help add into that reporting aspect. So outlining what tools you have and how you're going to use them is very important as well. And then finally, determine your budget. Do you have a budget to hire a freelancer? What about boosting your content on when something is doing really well and you want to reach a broader audience, putting $50 behind it to help boost it, or creating paid ads or influencer, user-generated content. All of that, those are paid content types that are very helpful for your strategy, but depending on your budget, might not be something that is feasible right now. So be realistic and put together a budget of what you're comfortable spending now versus here in a year or so when you're going to be able to scale that out. And once you have an idea of the resources available, it's time to get into that nitty-gritty of your content strategy and the rest of the W's that we talked about. The first W is the who. This is your discovery phase. And it's your opportunity to really gather information on your consumer category and brand so that you have a clear understanding of who you're creating for, where are they active online, what are their pain points, what are they looking for, what are they interested in. I'm really getting a full view of who they are, not just as a demographic outline, but as people and their behaviors. Additionally, who's your competition? Similar brands in the space, how does their content stack up? How do their products stack up? What content exists currently? What are the gaps? Doing that work can help you identify where your brand can really take advantage of white space in the industry and in your sector, where you can differentiate yourself from the content that you produce and how you are marketing to your target audience. And then finally is who your brand is. Think about your brand as a person. How do they talk? What is their story? Why are people interested in engaging with your brand? And how does that engagement go back and forth? Luckily, most of the people with us now have probably largely completed this discovery through a previous branding webinar with Rebloom. For those coming from the DMC, this is often something that our agencies help with as well. So we won't spend too much time on digging into this. We will share an example of what at least a target persona looks like and what a brand looks like in our in-practice section. But this information is the foundation of your strategy. So don't skip it if you haven't done the research already. But since the bulk of us have, we'll go ahead and move on to the next W, which is your why. It's really important to determine the why you are marketing. Why are you creating this content? And set clear objectives and KPIs tied to your strategy. You want to define what you want to achieve with your content on each channel, but also overall, what are we trying to do? Whether it's increasing brand awareness as a new brand, trying to get your name out there, driving specific traffic to the website, boosting conversions, product discoverability, all of those things can be your objectives. But whenever you're thinking about also those SMART goals, so SMART being specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time bound, you want to make sure that it's something that you're going to be able to track against, or else we never know if we're going to make actual progress. And then tactics to achieve those goals and some KPIs so that you can always make sure that you are looking back to the measurement and the analytics to move yourself forward. So we'll look at just the increased brand awareness right now. So that as an objective is very common for new businesses, getting your name out there. For this example, The SMART goal tied to that would be to increase website visitors by 20% over 6 months. So that is specific, actionable, relevant, time-bound. And then some tactics that could help reach that objective would be to publish engaging blog posts on trends in your industry, and then creating social media ad campaigns that continually point the user back to your website to find that information. And KPIs that we would use to track that would be website traffic and your social media engagement. At this point, it's all about being very intentional, knowing your brand and understanding your customers, and helping create content that is offering a combination of value, utility, education, inspiration, etc. So helping set these objectives up front so you know how you are where you are going is very, very important. The third W is what. Basically, what are you going to be creating? And this is a really fun step, in my opinion. I love to do this with brands through a brainstorming session with a few key stakeholders. And it's even better if you are able to get a potential client or somebody that's in that target audience in the room with you, whether it's somebody that you've worked with before or somebody that you know that your product or service is relevant to. They can help tell you what is important to them and what they would be looking for. But depending on where you're at with your business, you'll want to have, coming out of this brainstorming session, 2 to 3 ownable content themes. So you might throw up on the wall that we want to do these very specific topics. And you might have 50 of them, which can be very overwhelming, but just bucketing those into themes helps us clearly deliver against, or helps us categorize that content and the ideas across a lot of different content spaces too. So like blogs, social media, forums, each topic will lend itself to a different forum in different ways. But they should also deliver against both the needs of your audience and your brand message. When marketing messages merge with a customer's wants, needs, and preferences, the result is a really compelling strategy. Your marketing messages are your brand positioning and purpose, your elevator pitch, signature story, brand benefits, and your reasons to believe. They're that core communication element of your brand, and your personality, your voice, your tone, and your content strategy give that life. You have to strike a balance between them, because if your content is always just saying buy me at a volume 10, customers will ignore it. They will see is somebody trying to sell them something instead of somebody trying to add value. But on the flip side, if your content ignores all of the fundamentals, you're not going to effectively communicate who you are, as well as what you do and why you matter to them. So striking the balance of what customers need and what we want to get across as a brand is really important, and one that every marketer walks. I also want to touch on just a couple of content types. So evergreen content is something that you can use repeatedly over and over. It's more about the brand, like your brand story, and it's not time-based. Whereas things like promotional or product can be more time-based. So it's important to have a suite of some really good evergreen content for your channels that you can repurpose over time. Thought leadership is another type of content. So really pushing your expertise forward and showing how you are in the leading edge of things is another type of content that you can create. Industry news, so taking note of what is happening in the industry around you and having your own spin on it, having a perspective, sharing your point of view is important to your customers and in creating that engagement with your audience. And then customer engagement, that's just another type of on social media. I think this is one of the places that's most relevant, where you can find ways to purposely ask for engagement and build that engagement with your customers. Things like contest, or asking people to like comment and leave their favorite thing, like their favorite piece of product or piece of advice, things that like don't necessarily have to be selling, but are just looking to create engagement points with your audience. It's also crucial to ensure that you're creating the right content and the right resources to engage and convert your audience. Each platform, this looks primarily at social media, which I know that a lot of people on this webinar are mostly interested in. But each platform has a unique approach to content creation. For instance, Instagram, you'll be more likely to capture attention with very visual content, reels, videos, stories, photos. But each type of content also appeals to a specific audience. So, instance, reels and stories tend to skew to a more younger audience or reach that more younger audience more effectively because they're searching for authentic, emotional, and entertaining content. As of this year, it is video content, specifically short form, is the most popular form of content on almost any social media channel. And a HubSpot report recently found that those short form videos like TikTok videos, Reels, YouTube Shorts have the highest ROI of any content used in social media marketing. So it is something that is very valuable to invest in, looking and seeing if that is something that you're comfortable in. If you're not, another item on here would be user-generated content. That could be a great way for you to generate that content without having to be specifically responsible for doing it yourself. And to make sure that your content hits home on any channel, make sure that you're showcasing that brand personality, that tone of voice, and make sure that your image and messaging is consistent across every channel that you use. Make sure everything ladders up to that content theme or buckets. So making sure that your unique value proposition or goals, create those buckets containing those themes that you want to highlight, is consistent. And it helps you also not get lost in all of the trends that are coming out on TikTok or in Reels. It helps you really be clear. Remember your captions and headlines, even on highly visual social media channels. Captions are crucial to capturing your audience's attention. They can often be a secondary thought because the content in the video is more important. But don't forget that. And then hashtags. So they're not just for Twitter or Instagram. They're a crucial tool in helping customers find your content across different channels. Almost every channel has some form of hashtag or keyword engagement opportunity. And make sure that you're experimenting with a range of trending hashtags, niche tags related to your specific audience, like hashtag B2B SaaS, or even branded hashtags like Nike's Just Do It. Experiment, see what works for you, and what your strategy will be long term. And one of the most important steps any business can take when developing a valuable social media and content marketing strategy is researching and selecting the right platforms. So where are you going to put this content? There's a lot of new social channels available to choose from in today's digital world, on top of your email, your blog, your website, and everything else. But everything appeals to a different type of customer. Speaking about social media specifically, Facebook, it has historically been widely regarded as one of the best channels for reaching a very broad audience of customers. With a highly diverse background. It has also the ability to share a lot of different types of content, from infographics and videos to text-based posts, and build a community there as well. Alternatively, channels like TikTok or Instagram and Snapchat are ideal for companies targeting younger audiences with very visual content. And Twitter is one of the top platforms for sharing news and brief insights. LinkedIn is the go-to for B2B businesses searching professional audiences or thought leadership. So it's really important to choose the right channels. And by doing that, you need to research and know your target audience, like we discussed. Look at the demographics, psychographics, behaviors, the age group of the customers you tend to target with your products, and examine how they're using the internet and map their purchasing journey to help you select the most relevant channels for engagement. You also need to know your industry. Different industries and sectors naturally produce different types of content, and they are more effective on different channels. Fashion and beauty companies thrive on very visual platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, where they can really showcase that product in a visual format. But B2B consultants, service providers tend to do better on LinkedIn, Facebook, or even X or Twitter or Threads, where they can draw attention to their authority and thought leadership specifically. And then you also need to understand each platform. So as you dig in, each social media platform has unique features and methods of communicating with its customers. So consider what kind of content your audience consumes most whenever you're selecting your channels. Twitter is great for conversations and news updates. TikTok and Instagram, fast-paced, very visually focused content. LinkedIn for professional expertise, etc. And once you've thought through all of that and you have all of the list of the content themes, the formats that you want to create, and the channels that you ideally would be blasting this out to, it's time to cut down to what's actually manageable. And going back to those resources. So start with defining a clear purpose for each channel. In this example, again, this graphic looks at social media, but go ahead and include anything like your website, blog, video, reviews, email, etc. And clearly define the purpose of each channel. A couple examples could be Instagram is to visually share your brand story and create those targeted content and ads for your audience. Facebook is to build a community through engaging in educational content. Your blog is creating that ownable content that keeps your visitors not only engaged with you as a brand, but also on your site so that they are able to maybe discover more things and stick with you. LinkedIn to share professional thought leadership, and then email marketing to deliver both promotional and educational content. And I do want to point out that like your email list is one of your best marketing tools because it is a confirmed list of people who want to hear from you and buy from you. So as you're considering your content strategy, consider how you build that list as well. You don't need to have content or a newsletter going out right now, but even as you're starting to build, you can put things on your website or on your social media, asking people to sign up for promotions, for news, things like that. So you can start to build that list. Then you're going to map your channels back to your marketing objectives to make sure that they're clearly serving a purpose across multiple objectives and not just one, and creating extra work for you. Take a look back at those resources. Realistically, how many of these channels can you manage? And do you have time for right now? Evaluate those core platforms against your business needs. As you're starting out, focus and prioritize channels that help you achieve more in the short term. And then it's okay to tier them and say, I want to focus on these for the next 6 months and get a strategy down and feel good. And then I'm going to add on these tier 2, our next bucket of platforms, and start developing and repurposing content for them. Think about it as that now, your next, and then your future goals with your content. And the final W is when. So depending on your resources and tools, you'll want to start with an editorial calendar. I like to start by looking at just the year and understanding your industry and your business, when you're going to expect natural peaks, natural like seasonality, topics that might be of particular interest. If you're a B2C brand, consider the holidays. Or if you're doing clothing, consider seasonality in the type of clothing that you will provide. B2B brands understand natural times where your audience is looking for your product specifically, whether that's end of year planning, fiscal calendar years, things like that. Also look at what is being researched and when. You can use Google Trends, Moz, SEMrush to do some keyword research and seasonality to see if your content buckets, is there a particular time of year when people are searching for that more actively so that you can create content and have it be ready by that time. And it's important to note that not all of your content has to be created immediately. You don't walk out of this webinar and say, hey, I've got it. I know what I want my strategy to be. And now I have to create 50 pieces of content that I can repurpose and use for the next year. We create these editorial content calendars to give us the opportunities to space things out and to react and do things more thoughtfully. And by creating this and by being more purposeful and creating a lot of that evergreen content up front, you will be able to repurpose that over time, over and over and over again. And then also another aspect of the when is how often you want to post on each of those priority channels. For instance, if you are prioritizing Instagram, your blog, and your email list, this could look as simple as 2 blogs a month, 2 to 3 social posts per week, which can be product, blog, reviews, etc. Keep a mix of evergreen and time-specific content. And then 2 emails per week. One could be simply promotional. And then the other one could be more educational, where you're offering up more of that thought leadership and evergreen content. And then for almost all platforms, timing is also critical. Many social media management platforms, and even the platforms themselves at this point, they've gotten smart enough to offer up and provide recommendations of times that you're scheduling, that you should be scheduling posts. So make sure to listen to them, test it out, see what they work, how they work. As you get more content out there and as it reacts and can tell when your content performs better, it will make those recommendations smarter as well. But this is just a very high level best times to post on social media that Hootsuite put together most recently. So some days and times on each of these platforms where if you post around this time, you might reach more people. All right, now that we've made it through all of the elements, let's put this together with an example. We'll be walking through a fictional jewelry company that I created using my buddy AI and ChatGPT for this webinar. So this is also a little bit of an exercise in how you can use ChatGPT and other AI tools to help you generate some of these ideas and thought starters. Almost all of the content on here or in this example, will have started with prompts from ChatGPT and then have been edited or altered based off of my knowledge of the space. But here's a bit about their brand and key objectives. So Earthly Adornments is more than just a jewelry brand. It's a conscious choice for individuals who seek high quality, sustainable jewelry for everyday wear. Our mission is to create timeless pieces that can go from work to weekend while also being kind to the environment. Crafted with precision, our jewelry doesn't tarnish, ensuring longevity and preserving its elegance. We're not just about adornment, we're about making a statement for style and sustainability. So this is a really great, very simple brand positioning that gets a lot of keywords out there, a lot of their purpose, some of their values across to the customer very, very simply. I'm also including a little bit notes about their brand tone of voice because that's important in your content. Or they communicate with a tone that mirrors the value of their target persona. They speak confidently but empathetically, offering information and guidance in a friendly and approachable manner. And their content's going to showcase the authenticity, passion for sustainability, and a commitment to quality. As a brand, they aim to inspire, educate, and empower their audience, that fostering a sense of community and shared purpose. For the sake of this specific example and the objectives, because you will have more than one objective with your content strategy, but for sake of time, we're going to focus on brand awareness since they're a brand new shop on the scene. And we're going to primarily be doing this through content marketing, through blog, their social media, and email. And because I believe in being thorough, I even created a fake resources for this example. As a brand new company, they don't have many direct resources, but they do have Shanna, who will help with planning, coordination, posting, and reporting with 6 hours a week, and Erica, who will do the content development. And luckily, she's a double threat. She writes and can design content using their tools, Canva. They have a modest monthly budget held back to test at least some paid social and boost content that's performing well. And they're tentatively holding some funds for influencer marketing in UGC, but I didn't want to put hard numbers here because I don't want to give unrealistic expectations. Influencer marketing campaigns can vary based off of your desired outcome. So it's very important to know what you are wanting to get out of it before you go into it. Based off of like what the desired outcome is, if it's a large influencer that is creating content that you are getting to use and also posting to their site, that could come at a lot higher cost depending on their level. But there's also a lot of great opportunities to create user-generated content, not only through your own customers and reviews, but also through people where that's their bread and butter, is they just like to create content, and they'll do it for brands, and they'll do it for a modest fee, and then potentially just the exchange of the goods to review and create the content. But you'll have to evaluate what you're looking for and most likely reach out directly to them to determine what those costs would look like. And then finally, in terms of tools, they have Google Analytics for reporting, Canva for design. They use Hootsuite as their social media marketing platform. And then Asana is their workflow management, and their editorial calendar lives there. Not that you haven't seen enough of my face today, but I needed a face for our target persona. But this was crafted by ChatGPT once again, based off of the brand information provided. It is possible, I want to note that you might have multiple target personas. So it is important for you, if that is the case, to look at them side by side and identify the similarities and the differences in them to more effectively be able to select your content themes and your channels. So don't just make all the decisions based off of one. Look for where there's overlap and where there's like tension and possibly differences that you can take advantage of to reach both of those audiences effectively. Within your audience analysis, your psychographics and behaviors are really most important for identifying the types of content that is going to resonate with your audience, and also where to find them and where to put this content. You can go ahead and take a look at this analysis, and if you'd like, you can drop some notes in the chat of anything that jumps out to you that would be important and relevant for a brand like Earthly Adornments to use to craft the brand strategy. A few of the things that jump out for me, because I don't think that I need to read all of this for you, but just a couple of the items that jump out for me are the focus on eco-conscious and fashion forward and sustainability is really important to this target buyer. Work-life balance, limited time for shopping in real life is also a very interesting thing. So needing potentially things that can go from one to the other, needing versatile pieces is important. And that limited time means that hopefully they're looking for people online. Those preferred channels like online boutiques, Instagram, sustainable fashion websites, those give you a really important insight into where you can meet that buyer. And then another interesting part and important part are the triggers and the barriers in their shopping behavior. So triggers to buy being social media endorsements, or limited edition releases being important. You can start to craft your strategy and your narrative around that. And using UGC, customer reviews, things like that. And then a few of the barriers are high prices, doubts about authenticity of sustainability claims. So this makes it clear that your target buyer isn't just going to accept the fact that Earthly Adornments is a sustainable brand at face value. You need to put the proof in there and show them and tell them and educate them as well. So with that kind of helps us craft what those content themes are. So the three broad themes we have are going to be sustainability, artisan stories and craftsmanship, and styling. So sustainability, providing informative content about their practices and the jewelry, the materials used, the measures that they take to make sure that they are living up to that brand promise that they've made to their consumer. It helps educate your audience about the importance of supporting sustainable brands, which is great for us as a sustainable brand, while aligning with their values and building that trust. Artisan stories and craftsmanship is really an opportunity to highlight each piece of jewelry in a very special way, and the talented artisans that create that jewelry. and showing how much goes into each design, so that on the other side, you are also then justifying cost potentially, depending on where your pieces are lying. But also it creates that sense of connection with artisans and the support that they are giving to that community through this purchase. It helps build that connection between the customer and the brand as well. And then finally, styling. It's a jewelry brand. We love, as consumers of fashion and of jewelry and things, we like to see how it works in real life, and to see, how can I wear this with like to my 9 to 5 or to my job? How can I wear it to dinner or to the weekends or on vacation? Offering tips and videos on how to incorporate that jewelry into different aspects of your life is important, because you can also feature customers in this. You can have user-generated content. You can have influencers demonstrate their real-world applications with that social proof and those endorsements. And it also helps them visualize how it fits into their everyday life. So it really hits on a couple of key pieces to keep that engaging and keep them coming back and looking for more. And now we'll look at the channels and how we overlay the strategy in those content buckets for specific channels. For Earthly Endorments, they have chosen kind of 4 broad channels, but within that, even in social media, they have 3 specific platforms. Their website is going to be where they host the in-depth education, SEO, and that visitor engagement. Their social media is going to be visual storytelling and brand exposure. Instagram will really be the driver of a lot of that storytelling and inspiration. Facebook is going to have a little bit of a versatile role there. It connects with a broader audience, and it provides a platform for deeper engagement. Like we talked about earlier, there are a lot of content types that work on Facebook: infographics, videos, text only. So you can share a lot there and have that be an educational hub, or even create a community there by creating a group. And then finally, Pinterest is going to be where they curate and organize some of that visual content, and serves as a source of inspiration and an extension of that brand's visual appeal to a wider audience. I can't count the number of times that I have gone onto Pinterest to search for something, anywhere from what to wear to how to design my house, anything like that. So Pinterest as a visual platform is really great for a brand like this. Email marketing the purpose is to build customer relationships and retention. So making sure that you're staying top of mind with promotional or educational content. And then partnerships. You want to leverage an influencer or a partner's, like the sustainable clothing website is a great partner for this brand, because you get to leverage their reach and their credibility. And then under that, we've also bucketed out the content types across all of the different platforms, the themes and some of the ideas of what we want to create on all of those, and then specific KPIs that we're going to track to make sure that we're moving the needle and we are able to tell when something is performing and when it's not, so that we can test and learn and make really smart decisions about the content that we are putting out there over time. And then finally, it's the where, the when of it too, of pulling it all together into this editorial content calendar. For Earthly Adornments, they have aligned to, we're going to create about 2 blogs monthly of educational content, 2 to 3 social posts weekly. We want to make sure that there's 1 email monthly, and then we're planning what content will go into that. And then targeting and testing 1 user-generated content or review piece of content monthly. This is just an example of how that could lay out in your content calendar. This specific content calendar example is a HubSpot one, which I will have linked in our tools and resources. But it's an Excel spreadsheet that has multiple tabs. But this is one of my favorites because it can very visually show you in this month, and you can back up a couple months together. So you are always planning forward for next month or the next 2 or 3 months. But it's a very visual way to look at all of your different platforms and channels and how you're going to layer them over time. So posting the blog, on the blog, The Art of Sustainable Jewelry, then we know that we're going to promote that blog on our social media platforms and have posts about them throughout the week. You might also sprinkle in some products specifically on your social media during this time. And Instagram or Facebook Live, a video, styling tips from work to weekend, things like that can then be repurposed in Pinterest and in other platforms. And then all of it can kind of pull back up into your email. So introducing our sustainability initiatives and upcoming collections, that's a great opportunity to then again highlight that blog or highlight a new blog and put forth educational and promotional content together. So that is everything for earthly adornments, and that is one example of how your content strategy can come to life. I want to end with a couple quick tips and tricks of just things to remember and to think about. Not only all of the AI that I talked about and like generating content ideas or your target personas and things like that, but also you can help it generate the content. I will say, do not just take whatever AI spits out at you as Bible. Use it as a thought starter, or like a place to start from, and then go through and edit or just pull the ideas from it and really make it your own, because your customers, as they get familiar with your brand, will be able to tell when something has been just generated and thrown out there versus when it's coming from the brand and from that they have gotten used to. So the other tips and tricks are to amplify, make sure that you're promoting cross-channel. The example that I just shared, share your blog post in a newsletter, share it to social media, make sure that you're continuing to reuse content. It's not one and done. And then also boosting well-performing content to reach additional audiences. If you see something that is getting a lot more engagement compared to the benchmark that you've set with the rest of your content, then put a little bit behind it. Test and learn. You don't have to put $200 behind a post. You can start with 10, 20, 30 and just see what that gets you. And then you'll be able to make smarter decisions over time. Repurposing content. I know that kind of sounds like amplifying and cross promote, but you can repurpose things in different ways as well. You're not on content from your blog on social media doesn't just have to be pushing back to your blog. You can repurpose bits and pieces over time with different statistics or interesting quotes or things like that. Another thing you can, if it's within your kind of long-term brand plan and you want to create an ebook, but that sounds really intimidating, you can do that one blog post at a time and make it a content series that you can eventually then circle up into that ebook and have as an offering to your customers. And then when messages are landing in your organic, test them in paid media. So again, instead of just boosting a well-performing piece of content on social, make that its own paid ad and test that with $100 here or there to see how that performs. It's all about that test and learn. So, and by developing a consistent reporting cadence to evaluate that effectiveness and look at everything that you're doing, if you aren't doing that, then you're not going to be able to tell that you're moving towards those objectives consistently. And then also adapting messaging based off of what content is resonating. I cannot stress enough how often we put content out there and then we never really do anything with it. We might notice that one piece has gotten more engagement, but without taking a step back every month or even every quarter, I would almost recommend like looking at a quarter's worth of data to see the trends of what is working well and what isn't. And then one more piece that isn't in here, but it's more specifically for B2B brands, in terms of platforms and a little bit of nuance. A lot of these platforms, especially social media, can be very flash in the pan. You might not get people commenting on Instagram posts from a couple months ago or weeks ago or things like that. You're always needing to generate new content, but LinkedIn is one platform where you have a longer tail of when that is valuable. If you're a B2B and you are putting out content on LinkedIn, that frequently will stay in people's feeds for at least 2 to 3 weeks. So consider that as well whenever you're thinking about timing and strategy. And then just I've included in this, once we share all of these slides out, these are all clickable links, but just some of the resources that helped inform the graphics and the data that you saw today. And some workbooks or guides and one-pagers for you to help set up your own content strategy at home. Again, this does not need to be some beautiful document, very designed thing. It can be whatever format works best for you as a brand. And then also just some additional resources for digital marketing, a beginner's guide, social media marketing. If you're looking for social media management tools, this is a great roundup of the top, I think it's like 15 social media tools that also has their associated cost as well for you to consider. And that is everything that I have for you today. If you have any questions, I am including my email address, so please feel free to reach out to me if you have a specific question that I can help answer. I will do my best to get to everybody and to provide thoughtful responses. This is one of the greatest things about my job, is that I get to interact and get to help small organizations get started. So please reach out. And if you get to a point where you are looking for more support in your content strategy and you're looking for an agency, just let us know, drop us a note, and we'd be happy to help you out.